Welcome to Managing a 100-Student Print Shop with GrabCAD Shop. I'm Shivam Ghosh, an engineer with Stratasys, and here's our agenda for today. First, we're going to look at the problem and the solution which Shop solves. Then we're going to look at a real-life example of a school using Shop for over 100 students and talk to Matthew Brown, STEM instructor for Jefferson County Schools. And finally, we're going to end with how you can get your Shop license free until the end of 2020. So here's the problem that we're seeing. Most mid-sized schools have the same problem. They have a few skilled teacher operators running their 3D printers, but they have many, many, many students requesting prints from those operators, usually all at once. Some of the students email their files to the teacher to have them printed. Some of the students use some sort of link to an FTP site to have the files printed. And some of the students just walk into the lab with a USB drive and say, I need 3 of these printed right away. And teachers tell us, managing all these print requests, giving them a due date, telling students no, that machine's not available for that material right now. All this paperwork takes up to 15% of a teacher's day. That's time spent not creating lessons plans, not teaching students, not preparing machines. All this paperwork and back and forth communication is something teachers wish could be automated. And so we automated it. So what we've created is GrabCAD Shop, a single online portal for everyone at the school to request prints through. This means all the files are in one place, securely backed up on the cloud. Every job gets an automatic job number for tracking purposes. And you can assign permissions and roles, so certain groups of teachers and students can use certain machines or materials. And best of all, there's no IT setup. You can set it up on your own in under 10 minutes. So let's see what it looks like. It starts off by logging in using your own unique GrabCAD print account and then choosing your shop. Notice I've got many different shops underneath my one license, meaning you can split up access by department, major, or even class. Let's take a look inside the engineering department. Notice under the machines, we've got Stratasys machines and non-Stratasys machines, meaning you can have third-party 3D printers and waterjet and laser cutters all in the same shop. Now let's look how to start a new order in GrabCAD Shop. I'm going to drag in a big SolidWorks assembly with lots of different parts right into the window. We'll give it a project name, choose the type of material we're going to need, and even give it a date we need the print back by. All basic information recorded the same for every single job. That's what the student will do. Now let's see what you as the operator can do. Inside each job, you can set the status of any individual part, whether it's in review or ready to print or has issues, or if it's in progress right now. You can also send comments back to the requester. Is the part too thin to print? Is it too thick? Is there the wrong size? These comments get delivered by email right back to the person who requested the job. And finally, you can edit the price per part. Whatever you put in the individual part prices will add up to the total job cost, as seen here. And all communication takes place through GrabCAD Shop's integrated email notification system, from the initial order to the operator, to letting the requester know their job's ready for pickup, making communication streamlined and efficient. But don't take my word for it. Let's talk with someone using Shop every single day, Matthew Brown, a STEM instructor from Jefferson County Schools in Colorado. Matthew, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, what was life like at Jefferson County before you guys implemented GrabCAD Shop?
Difficult. we we were trying to build an additive program for Warren Tech at Lakewood High School, and we had a couple of Stratasys machines, but we had well over 100 students that were wanting to print, and trying to manage those projects. I had to be very strategic about how I had classes kind of end up being ready to print, so they weren't all ready to print at the same time. We were passing around flash drives. We tried lots of things. We tried flash drives where everyone put all of their parts onto flash drives, and I created a Google form at one time and tried to have kids submit that way. Yeah, and I mean, well, it worked. It wasn't very convenient, and there were times that we would get we'd have projects get lost. The submission would get overlooked. There was no way to kind of keep track of what was printed and what wasn't, unless you just deleted everything out. But then you didn't have any record to go back and look at if you needed to go back and queue print what. You couldn't do that. The flash drive was kind of a nightmare too. It was things would get lost and not printed, and people wouldn't know who printed what, and it was very hard to track things and to keep track of who printed. And in a lab where we're trying to keep track of every student has a certain amount of material that they get to use, it's hard to keep track of that by printing on a flash drive or in a Google form and keep things organized. So it was difficult, to say the least.
Yeah, I can imagine passing around one flash drive for the entire class seems like a good idea until you get the flash drive back and it has 45 copies of bracket.sld.prt on it.
Right, there's no name associated with it. Yes, it was a nightmare to try to figure out. And then when the prints came off the printer, whose was what? I mean, it was it was fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you guys were one of our early beta testers, way back in 2019. So how are things now with GrabCAD Shop up and running and connected to all your different printers?
It's much smoother. I mean, and now I can turn it over to my students and they can print it and they can organize it, and it's easy for them to go in and check off. I may have 10 or 12 kids that are managing the print queue at the same time. And because they all have unique logins, I can see who's doing what prints, and then they follow through and they check off the different steps, different stages as it's been evaluated. Has it been in the printer? Is it finished? What stage of the process are we at? The kids are really good at keeping that going. Just once we trained them, everything was perfect. Everything was great. It was so much smoother. I didn't have to spend any time. I mean, every once in a while, something got missed, but I was able to see it quickly because I could see that no one had addressed it in shop. And even when kids forget to address it, all I have to do is say, "Hey, who's doing this print?" And one of the kids, "Oh, that's mine. I forgot to check it off." And they go in and they check it off. But it's just seconds instead of trying to sift through hours through all this stuff, flash drives and Google Docs, and it was just so much nicer to have it all in one place with all the different tools available to be able to manage a print from the time it's submitted until it's handed back to the customer again. So
That's awesome.
Very smooth.
Awesome. That's all we're trying to do is trying to make that intake process just a little bit smoother. So we had talked before this call. There was a story that sort of encapsulated everything shop and the 3D printing lab at Warren Tech could do. So tell me about this jukebox story.
Yeah, our drama teacher, they were doing West Side Story and they needed an old jukebox, and so we found an old jukebox on design on Thingiverse, I think it was, and brought it down, scaled it up, chopped it into the students chopped it up into chunks so we could print it, and then they submitted it to shop, and with a note that this had to be printed by a certain time, so the students that were in charge of managing the shop could see that, hey, we need to bump this up in the queue because it has to be done in a week for the play. The play happens next Saturday, whether or not there's a jukebox. So they were able to see those notes and then move that up in the queue and manage that process. And there were probably 4 or 5 different students that were working on different sections of that jukebox to get it all printed in time. And in the past, that would have just been a logistical nightmare to try to stop everything and let everybody know, hey, we gotta stop the printers, when it comes to these other projects, and get this in there in its place. And this way, everybody could see what was going on in the shop. They could see that this had been moved up. They could talk to the people that had moved it up to find out how long it was going to take, or if there were what other changes need to be happening. So it allows for better communication between the team leaders and between the people managing the print jobs. The students were then able to go and let the drama teacher know that, hey, we're going to have this thing done by Friday before before the play. So they got it all done, got it all printed, and they had 2 shows, and then everything shut down for COVID-19. Just kind of I didn't get to see the play because they ended it before I was going to go to one of the later shows, but I heard it was great. I heard it was really good, and some of my students actually, the kids that designed it actually did a little. They created a little Arduino of some flashing lights and put up in the section where the records would be, and so it was kind of flashing all these different colored lights, and it was really cool. It really looked neat when they were done. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool to see that students could coordinate together and cut things up and put things back together using Shop and 3D printing. So the thing we're trying to get to is preparing students for graduation and their life after school. What kind of benefits have you seen having a 3D printing shop there at Jefferson County Schools in that area?
Well, I think there are a couple of real benefits. One is that it's going to prepare them for managing a shop elsewhere. And if, and I know this is still relatively new, but for them to be able to go in with that experience and that knowledge and the understanding of how the software works and be able to recommend the software or this type of system, I think even if they don't go into a place where there's GrabCAD Shop, it's going to bring them the skills they need. It's going to help develop the skills they need to manage and keep things organized, because if you have people that are depending on parts being printed by certain times for the workplace, they better be done. So be able to keep things organized and to be able to prioritize and recognize when things need to be maybe bumped up a little bit when there's a quick deadline or a quick turnaround on something. It's going to give them that management skill. It's going to help them with that management skill. And that is, I think, another big piece is management, communication, organization. Those things are all things that I think GrabCAD Shop allows students to kind of put all together at one time within this program. It helps them kind of see how those things all work together and create a seamless start to finish kind of process. And once they get into that, and I think that's part of it too, is it gives them those stages, it gives them those steps to be able to work through to get a product from somebody submitting it to handing them a final product in the end. So it's been great for that.
Awesome. That's really awesome. Well, Matthew, again, thank you so much for your time and thank you for being here, and hope you guys keep printing out there and doing amazing things.
Sure. Thank you.
The only thing left is for you guys to try it out yourself. Here's a link just for watching this webinar. It's education specific. If you go to grabcad.com/shop/schools, what you'll see is this. And from there, you can start your own free trial. Normally, our trials last 30 days, but because of everything that's going on this year, if you click on the Start Your Trial button, you'll get a free, fully featured version of GrabCAD Shop until December 31st, 2020. So try it out, let us know how it goes, and thanks for listening.